It's time to dad.
Hey now, welcome in. Welcome back to Time to Dad. This is Jason. I'm joined with Alex and Nick, and uh, thank you for listening once again. We appreciate you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. But this week we're going to be talking about, um, you know, I think eating eating habits for kids. Kind of different topics we've thought about doing the last couple of weeks, and they never came to fruition. But um, one that I think pets is going to be a big one for me. Maybe touch on some growing up respect things with parents. But so we got a lot to talk about on this episode. Why don't we start with Nick? We got a topic about eating. Is this like eating habits, how we feed the kids, what we feed the kids? What are we going? Where are we going with that?
Yeah, so you got I've seen a bunch of different kids and talking to parents, right? So you got the kids that only want chicken nuggets and it's chicken nuggets 7 nights a week and that's it. Or you got the kids that are super disciplined and they'll eat whatever the heck you put in front of them. And then some of it's parents, right? You hear it a lot these days that parents treat or kids. Let me think of how to word this. Parents are basically being short order cooks for their kids, right? So some parents, if the wife and I are having stroganoff and the kids, the kid wants hot dogs, they're gonna make that kid the hot dog. They're not gonna, put that stroganoff in front of their kid and say like that's what we're having, or you're gonna go hungry. So I think that's kind of where this topic falls. For me, Emerson can be a good eater, but he also has his nights where, he does ask for, we're having something he doesn't like, and it's all right. Well, if you don't want that, I'll make you a can of Paw Patrol soup. Campbell's Paw Patrol soup. But we try not to be a short order cook. But some nights, man, if he's just not having whatever we have to eat, it's an easier battle to win to just throw a can of Campbell's soup or to whip up a quick batch of like some Kraft mac and cheese. It just depends on what we got going on and mentally whether or not we want to go through the battle of trying to get him to eat. But we do introduce him to new things, and we try to give him a good variety, and we try to not always just feed him, the junk foods that every kid loves. We try to mix up what we're cooking, but it's not always possible. How about you guys?
I think it's a weird thing because there's only so much you can control with your own kids, and when you're actually thinking about feeding them, you can't control whether or not, like, honestly, the only thing, like, they have to physically swallow it. Like, it's like that first thing that or one of the things, like, you can't control. Like, they have to choose that they're going to eat whatever you're providing for them on some level. They can, like, if they wanted to be bratty enough, like, just not consume it. I mean, eventually they're going to be hungry. They're going to eat something, but like, I feel like there's a fine line between like forcing them to do something and making them think it's their idea. So you just have to pick that battle, and whether that's like having a better way of explaining it or reasoning with them on why they want to eat those things, showing them a good example by eating better food yourself, all those things. It's not easy to get a kid to eat something when they just don't want it.
Yeah.
So
what drives me batshit crazy is we'll make something one week. Like we've got 7 or 8 episodes, recipes that we have in rotation that like we know he will scarf like 2 platefuls full of it. And so we try to rotate those weekly and, mix it up with some other stuff that he doesn't normally have. But usually those go-to things he'll eat. But there'll be nights where, last week he ate 2 platefuls of this like taco pasta that we make. And then I gave it to him this week and he was like, no, I don't want it. I don't like this. And I chose the battle of, okay, well, if you don't want to eat it, then that's fine, but you're going to go to bed hungry. And sure enough, I let him go and play. He went and played, and his food just sat there and got cold. And about 20 minutes later, he was hungry, and he asked me to warm it back up, and I warmed it up, and that little booger butt ate 2 giant helpings of it. I mean, he ate more of it than I ate from my serving. And that's kind of the line you got to walk, though, right? But there's been nights where we said, this is what we're having. I'm not making anything special. Maybe we didn't have anything else in the pantry that was quick and easy to make. So we kind of gave him that ultimatum. And he's other than his little Go-Gurt snack right before bedtime, he's gone to bed hungry a couple nights, and it's not going to kill the kid. He'll say, I'm hungry and stuff, but that's kind of, we pick and choose when we play that card with him, and we try not to do it. But sometimes you just gotta, you gotta let the kid know that you're in charge and there's nothing wrong with what you're providing them. It's good food. And I think that's, every parent is going to have that battle of what they do in that situation. And you're going to have the parent that bends and breaks every time, or you're going to have the parent that just tells their kid that, when I was a kid, if you didn't eat, you sat at the table, until it was bedtime. If we didn't want to eat what we were having.
Mm-hmm. And you never forgot that, did you, Nick?
No.
So, like, to me, it's, yeah, there's a fine line, and I try to talk to, and I don't know if it even makes sense, and I don't know if it's traditional parenting or however you want to break it down. Like, I try to talk to him like he's a full-grown person and understands, and try to really look like deeply at him and kind of like read his eyes, read his emotion. Like, I communicate pretty well with him in that he's my son, so I try to ask him like legitimately why he doesn't want something and try to reason with him as like, so I try that stuff. It doesn't really work, but I don't know if that's, I hate the memories of having to sit at the table because I didn't finish milk or I didn't eat this or that. Like, I don't want to, you don't forget that because it sucked, and like it
sucked at the time, but you don't look back at it like, damn, that really ruined my effing childhood,
No, but it's like you're just so angry and negative. This isn't.
It is
negative reinforcement.
It is a negative connotation.
Positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
I don't want to negatively reinforce the kids so they have like a traumatic. Not that it's traumatic. It's just like you never forgot it, so it stuck with you for whatever reason. It just sucked. It stuck with you because you were really pissed. Like, it made you really mad.
Oh, hell yeah!
There. Like, so it's like, I don't know. Try to break it down like he's an adult. Like, he can trust what I'm telling him to do or asking him to do. And I'm not saying that works when he's 22, 23 months old, but like, he's on some level, whether you find the thing he likes, like, we try to get him to listen. Like, he likes music. If we put music on while he's eating, and he literally will like bob around and like he's
burning the calories while he's eating them, man.
Well, like music, and he gets in like a flow state with it, so that I can like give him some food that he wouldn't necessarily eat, and he's just like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to be stubborn now. Like, I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah,
I'll take some of that. I'm cool. Like, well, whatever it takes. I don't know. Like, you just, you got to make them think it's their idea and get them to eat it for the right reason. Is the only thing I'd say.
Yeah, I was gonna. So, yeah, we're terrible about actually eating at the like proper dinner table. We'll do a lot of eating downstairs, right? But he does have his little kids table down there, and he eats at his little kids table, and my wife and I will eat over at the sofa and the ottoman or whatever. But one thing that has worked pretty well most times is we'll kind of get in that standoff where my wife and I are like, okay, this is what we're having. If you don't want to eat it, then you're just going to be hungry. And eventually he'll sit there, and, a few minutes later, he'll get to the point where he asks, can I get up and go play with something? And so then we find out, what grabbed his attention or what he really wants. Maybe he really wants to play his Nintendo Switch. So once we find out what's really sparking his interest, we can kind of use that as leverage. So sure, I'll give you a 5-minute break. You can play Nintendo for 5 minutes, but I need to see 5 bites before you do that. And usually giving him like an incentive to, and it's not always 5 bites. Sometimes we can only get him to take 3. But usually if we can get him to take those first couple initial bites and then let him play, he'll go back over there after he's done playing for a little bit and start eating again on his own. Because he's not, the food we're giving him doesn't taste like crap. We wouldn't be eating it if it tastes like crap. That's just his excuse for not wanting to eat what we're giving him, right? But once we can get him to take those first couple initial bites with some incentive, he'll go back and eat himself, and usually eat, a good chunk. He doesn't always eat everything he's got, but he'll at least eat it and take more bites and stuff. And so we kind of barter with him like that. Can sometimes kind of break that ice when he's just hell bent on not eating whatever it is.
So can I just step in and say that I don't have any of those problems with my children?
The hell?
Because we have given them everything that my wife is able to cook and everything weird that we can think of. So there's no foreign anything to them. They've tried every single fruit. They've tried every single different type of restaurant, whether it's Asian food or full-on American, Southern American food over here. They just eat, fully able to eat, and when they don't want to eat, they won't eat, and we kind of let them slide.
2, right?
Yeah, they're both 2. My kids are
you
twin
got it coming,
girls.
buddy.
I know. I'm waiting. They haven't fussed at anything yet. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. But so far, they've eaten absolutely everything. And when they don't want to eat, they don't eat. But my wife makes sure that they have a snack in between a meal, at least every single time. And if that doesn't work, we know they're hungry when they fully finish whatever is in front of them and then come pick off our plates. We know they're hungry, like because they just want to eat. I know they, in between growth spurts, that's how we know they're going through another growth spurt, because they start just devouring
like 5 snacks throughout the day,
asking for more snacks.
Oh, you teach them sign language?
Miss Rachel.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't. Miss Rachel does, and my wife reinforces it. So, yeah, I don't.
Great.
Miss Rachel deserves all the credit. But yeah, it's one of the positives from them watching Miss Rachel on YouTube. But I mean, whenever they want more, they say more.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So our son, we were kind of the same way with, like, between my mom and us. We tried to throw as much food at them as we could. Different things, unusual things he'd never tried before, and we did the whole. Get how many thumbs up, and he'd either give us a thumb up, or if he really liked it, he'd tell us, like 10 thumbs up, and he'd tell us their wiggly thumbs and wave his hands and shit like that.
Nice.
But stuff that he liked when he was like 2 and 3, like tomatoes. When he was 2 or 3, if I was making dinner with something and it had like Roma tomatoes in it, I could have just given that kid a bowl of like diced Roma tomatoes, and he would just eat them till he was sick to his stomach. He loved them so much. Whoa. But now on like taco night, when I slice up like some fresh Roma tomatoes and put them, in a bowl on the side with all the crap, he won't touch them. Won't touch them at all. And kids are so funny like that, man. The way they just go through little I don't even know what to call it. But they just kind of have these little phases of what they want to eat. Like I have a coworker I was talking to. His kid used to be on like a chicken nugget phase, and that was all his kid wanted to eat was chicken nuggets every day and every night. And I mean, he did it. He gave his kid chicken nuggets every night, but I just kind of I can't subscribe to that personally. I don't know why, but you're good. Yeah, I think your girl. It's good you introduce them to stuff, because that's going to be super valuable when they're older, right? But I think you'll hit a wall at some point where you're like, so frustrated. Like, why the hell won't they eat this? Like, they used to crush this when they were younger. It sneaks up on you.
What I can, so this is a good step, and it's not really even a story. Basically, Russell wouldn't do any, vegetables really at all. You'd have to get like the pouch form of it and have it like it was like squeezed up, like, because he was used to some mushed food.
Mm-hmm.
So like he wouldn't eat. And if I was to, geez, I'm sorry guys.
He's got the Rona.
I don't, but I got a frog in my throat. But basically, I would mush everything up and put it in like a bag, and then cut the tip of the bag and feed it to him that way, because he loved the idea of it being liquid.
Oh, kids are texture eaters too, man. Oh yeah, man down.
Sorry.
You good?
No, I'll get there.
Yeah. Yeah, kids. Kids are total texture eaters. I'm a big kid, and I'm 100% a texture eater. Like, it could be the most amazing tasting food in the world, but if the texture just doesn't jive with my mouth and what's going on in there when I'm chewing it, I'm like, nope, not for me.
I'm more of a smell person. If it smells weird, I can't do it. So I can't eat this fruit called papaya. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of papaya.
Never tried it.
It smells like vomit to me.
Oof.
And my nose will tell my brain that's vomit. What are you doing? So I can't physically eat it without immediately wanting to spit it out. Same thing with wine. If I smell the wine and it smells like smelly feet, I hate to compare it to that, because like my wife's feet don't stink like that. But if I take a whiff of that wine and I go to try to taste it, same situation. I just can't get past that smell. It smells like really stinky feet, and I can't get past it.
It's like, so I just balsamic. That's what comes to my mind whenever I smell balsamic vinegar. Is just like swamp feet. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with me. Just those two things, and it's the odor. I just can't get past.
But kids are the same way, man. They'll smell something and they won't even taste it. Or they'll look at, they're very visual too, right? If like stroganoff really triggers him, because on a plate, and I'm talking like the cheap like hamburger helper stroganoff, right? Which kind of it doesn't look good on a plate, right? It just looks fucking disgusting, kind of. And he'll look at it and be like, "Nah, I don't like it." But if we can get him, sidetracked enough to get him to give us those 5 bites, he'll eat he'll eat a half a damn box of it himself. Mm-hmm. It's just you got to figure out like how to break through that barrier with your kids. Maybe it's you. Maybe you do reward him. You say, "Hey, I'll give you 10 minutes of playtime if you show me 5 bites," or hey, you can watch this movie if you show me 5 bites, or you can stay up a little later. You gotta figure out what works for your kid. And it's kind of weird to reward them for not doing what you're asking them to do, but at the same time, it's a win if you get them to eat, right? So you just gotta experiment, I guess, is my advice.
The winner. The $5 are the win. The 5 bites are the win, right? At that point, so you got what It's an arrangement, mutually assured arrangement.
Yeah.
Like, I'll do the 5 bites, and I have the freedom to say, like, I still don't like it, but more than likely, I also, they'll reluctantly be like, "Oh, I do like it," and they'll just eat the whole thing. So, but it's like Atomic Habits, like small things, like a little step, or like a minute each day, like different. So like, 5 bites is like, give them something manageable that even if they really don't want it. So, what is it about the number 5? Because I think last episode, Joe.
I mean, that's the first number like they can count to. So
5 is like 5 and 10.
I mean, 5
like,
I think is like the first core counting sequence that kids learn.
It's your fingers too. Like
so
it's literally like something that you can count on your own hand. Hopefully, if 5.
I still can't count to 5, and I'm 38 years old.
No, I mean, hopefully you have 5 fingers. But yeah, I mean, I worked a lot of machine shops in my life, so not everybody's blessed with 5 fingers. I'll tell you that. But yeah, like 5. So 5 bites. That's good. I think.
And we have big boy. Well, he has little bites too, and he's got big boy bites. So sometimes you have to take it a step further, and you got to say, all right, I need 5 big boy bites. Or he'll say, can I do 5 little bites? I mean, we get weird with it, man, but it's all in like the point like to get him to just take some bites.
This is gold.
This is gold.
Dude, I mean, their mind is so simple, dude.
You're playing chess while he's playing checkers.
Exactly. If 5 little bites, man, is still a win if you're the parent. You still got them to eat something that they were hell bent on not eating, right? So,
and you're asking for big bites. You just got those little bites in your back pocket.
Exactly. You tell him big bites, and he may rebuttal and say, "Well, I don't want to take 5 fucking big bites. Let me take 5 little bites." And you ponder on it, and then you're like, "Okay, I'll settle for 5 little bites." Even if he's that hell bent on just not taking bites. And so if he does you win.
I think for me, we're very lucky where our kids are just curious by everything. Yeah. They're just like, if me and my wife are trying something that we like and they're just hanging out by themselves, they come around, they start looking at what we're eating, and they ask us if they want to try. They're like, can I have some? And I was like, do you want to try? That's our question to them. Do you want to try? They all say yes. Yeah. So we just give it to them. They're already curious. Ask them if they want to try this new thing. And they're like super stoked, whether they like it or not afterwards.
I love the faces
they tried.
When your kids are still in that experimental age and there's still stuff they haven't tried. I live for like the goofy ass faces that Emerson would make when he'd try something that's sweet and he wasn't expecting it, or something that's kind of sour, or something that's just really bold. Those faces little kids make, like when they try that stuff for the first time, are freaking priceless. But you're going to hit that brick wall. So you got to figure out how to prepare for it.
I think so. I'm on the other side of the brick wall. I got my own problems with food and everything because of the way I eat. But like to that point, Alex I think he's on a really good vibe or trajectory with it, where that's just their vibe of like, we eat different foods. We like a lot of different stuff. Like, you're not like making it, like neither of you are being dramatic about, I would never eat that.
Yeah.
Like, and the kid like mentally projects that. So if your parents don't have things they don't like, then you just like everything, because that's why your parents, like, that's the vibe you're giving off. Like, we're going to try this and I kind of like it. Do you want to try it? Okay. Yeah. Maybe you like it. Maybe you don't. It's cool. Like, we'll just go on to the next thing. We're going to eat something different tomorrow anyways. Like, rinsing our food as opposed to having like a defeatist or a negative attitude towards it, which I mean, I was brought up very much on. My mom, super picky, super texture oriented, like doesn't like anything. And her mom, like the whole family, like everything's cooked very plain and they don't do spices, and they're very like,
sounds like my wife.
Like, I'll explain it this way. My family legitimately came over on the Mayflower and their last name was White. Like, we're very plain, puritanical society. I swear to God, I'm not joking.
No pun intended with Thanksgiving just flying by.
I'm telling you.
Oh my
dude, God. That's me. That's me now, though, man.
I was I'm like my whole life.
If I have a turkey sandwich, I don't want mayonnaise on it. No mustard. I'm a plain Jane. This is what I like. This is what I'm gonna eat.
You're putting something negative on all that other stuff. So I feel like,
well, I don't do it in
have
front
that
of
problem.
him.
Like,
He doesn't know I won't eat all
no,
that shit.
you try not to, but you can't. They're very intuitive.
He
They
doesn't
know. Like, he knows. I'm telling you, like, they all know.
If he knew I was
they
that
know
picky,
enough.
he wouldn't eat. Because like I absolutely despise ranch. Like even
So you're good
going
at
back
it,
to
then.
what
Yeah.
Alex said, like even the smell of ranch, it makes me feel like I'm gonna hurl. But my son will, and I have to touch that shit and open his Chick-fil-A ranch packet and get it on my fucking hands. And then while I'm eating, I have to fucking smell it on my fingers. I'll open it for him, but he has no clue that ranch is like the freaking devil to me. He just doesn't know. I don't show him that stuff, and I try not to say it out loud for that very reason, because I don't want him to get kind of the same way. But it's very obvious if I were to write out, like if you asked me to write out like Emerson's like preferred menu when he was like 2 or 3 versus Emerson's preferred menu now, they would be like opposite ends of the spectrum as far as what he'll eat. And that's just in like a 2-year span, right? 3-year span. It's just kind of crazy. Some weeks what do you want? What do you want? My mom watches them after school, so I usually go to the grocery store after work on the way home, and I'll say, "Hey, what does little man want?" And so that helps too. I guess that's another important piece is we'll kind of give him an option to pick, and sometimes he'll be like, every night he'll say fucking tacos, and I'm like, dude, we're not doing tacos 5 nights a week. So some nights you'll have to not go with what he wants, but I think at least trying to give them a say is also another way to kind of avoid those tensions of either ordering or preparing something for dinner that they're not going to want to eat. So I guess in a way that's like pseudo short order cooking for him. But in our minds, it's just kind of giving him a chance to voice his opinion about what he wants to eat.
So what do you give your kids, whether it's food or other things? Like, what do you, I like to call it like the rebellious, like, gifts that our kids get or treatment that they get that we never had. Like, what is your kid benefiting from because you had a trauma and weren't allowed to have it? You know what I mean? Or whatever. I don't know how else to term it.
Shit, I don't know.
I mean, I feel I don't it's not so much I guess it's a weird thing to ask for a specific example, but I feel like there's certain things where maybe your parents were super neat and you're rebellious because you're messy, or the parents were messy and you're rebellious. So like you keep things very orderly. Like, I don't know. It's just it's the way I termed it. It was on our topic sheet, but I think I'm reading it wrong. But like, what do you give your kids that you didn't have as a kid?
Oh, so yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think that topic was meant to be like, I mean, that could be physical things. That could be, you know, if you were growing up and your parents didn't have a lot of money. I was actually talking to Alex kind of about what I was thinking for that topic before you pop back on. But it could be like physical things, like you know, maybe your parents didn't grow up with a lot of money. You didn't have a lot of money in your family, and maybe that could be your current situation as a dad. And maybe there's that one thing that, I mean, it doesn't have to be, right, like a $400 Nintendo Switch or a $700 PlayStation. But is there any like special thing that, like, you know, you worked your ass off specifically to get it for your kid? And that was like a super gratifying moment for you, whether it was an expensive gift, whether it was something you made, you had to work your ass off to make. That's kind of where I think that topic was going. But for me, I mean, I find we didn't grow up without money. But knowing that Emerson's our last kid, I find that Jen and I both tend to kind of over spoil him, I guess is what I would say. Like we do. And I think every parent, puts their kid before themselves, right? I don't know any parent that's walking around and like, $1,000 pair of Nikes, but they're buying like Salvation Army shoes for their kids, right? We all try to put our kids ahead of us. But we find ourselves spoiling Emerson, I think, a little too much. And part of that is that we know he's our last kid. So we're trying to do it up. But I don't know. That's a positive and a negative in my mind, because we don't like to do it, but at the same time, there's not going to be another time where we're going to get to see his reactions to like getting him that uber expensive toy he wants, like Paw Patrol shit he wanted last Christmas. It was $70 for this little teeny friggin' Paw Patrol fire truck. But that's what we got him. Just because we want to see those reactions. I think that's a tough line for parents to kind of walk, I guess. But a lot of this, I mean, if I had to answer that question, I'd say a lot of that is for today's parents. I think most of them would say it's technology related, right? When we were growing up, we didn't have shit. I mean, I think I was like 10 or 11 years old before computers in the house even got popular. We were still on dial-up internet. That's how basic computers were. But I don't know. Do you guys have anything similar like that? Do you see that booger fly out of my nose?
No.
I had to ask. Now everybody's rewinding to see. You're welcome.
Yeah, now we're gonna have freeze frames. Yeah,
you're welcome.
I think there's a lot of things that I not consciously, but I think it's like, if you want to go all the way back with it, our kids are spoiled simply by the fact that we as like care and spend as much time getting to know them or raising them as we do as dads in this generation versus when we were kids. Like, our dads in a lot of cases were, because of work or just because that's the way it was, like they weren't around, like there wasn't a connection or a constant like thing with your dad. I mean, that was it. They worked a lot. Like you can look at the statistics of how much time was spent with your children as a father now versus how much it was like years and years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So I think that we spoil them just with our presence at that point, which is just the way that it's just a different way of going about it, and it'll make them better people. But everything changes in that way.
It's
hard to compare.
No, that was an interesting spin, though. You kind of made me think of something. So, I mean, my dad, he worked for United States Post Office after he got out of the military for like, Jesus, I don't know, 30 something years. But now that you say that, you're just talking about dads who were working a lot. I mean, he worked a shit ton of overtime, and I remember him missing sporting events and stuff like that. And that was mostly when I was younger. When I got into like high school sports and stuff, I mean, he'd be running late, but he'd show up to all my wrestling matches, like still in his damn delivery uniform and shit, but he'd be there. But I do remember when I was younger, and I mean, he and my mom were just starting out, and they had bought a house, and they were raising 2 kids, and I do remember him missing sporting events, which kind of sucked. And so I do find myself wanting to kind of be there. And my situation's a little different than my dad's, I guess, because I work a typical 9 to 5 Monday through Friday for the most part. So I don't really, I don't get pushed into overtime a lot, so I don't have to worry about missing after hours functions and things like that with him. But I do make it a point to make sure that my schedule is cleared and I can go to like his trunk or treat at school, or events at my mom's church and stuff like that. I try because I know how it kind of hurt when I was a kid. I try to make sure that I'm not missing any of that stuff with him.
Right.
So can I just say that? Can I just say that this is not where I expected it to go? I expected it to go be what me and Nick were talking
It's
about
a
before
weird
we started
topic, right?
recording.
He put that spin on it, and I was like,
It is a
"Shit,
weird
you're
topic,
right."
but you did. But what I was gonna say before I forget is all I wanted to do is get my kids a Power Wheel. That's the only thing as a child that I knew I wanted it, and unfortunately, we didn't have the space for it. We lived in apartments during that part of my childhood,
Mhm.
so there was nowhere to really ride it around or space in the apartment to fully enjoy it. You know what I mean? One thing that my kids are definitely getting, but other than that, now that you guys are talking about real stuff, it's my dad.
That's real, dude.
Yeah,
That's
like
real. Don't discredit it.
No. Yeah, but to go back to what you guys were talking about is my dad was always working. I definitely remember that being a thing. My mom was working sporadically. I guess, whenever times were a little bit difficult, she went back to work. But then once everything was okay, like, she stopped working. So she was mostly a stay-at-home mom. But I remember my parents missing a lot of stuff, and I'm like, they're just working. Thanks to my job, I don't have that issue. I'm home by 3 o'clock every day. You know what I mean? So I get to naturally spend more time with the kids. And sometimes I'm like, hey man, go away. Let me have like 5 minutes to myself.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, Dad, I want to freaking be with you. And I remember as a kid, I don't remember having that feeling. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hang out with my dad more. It's like he was already so busy, so tired doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm just like, I don't need to hang out with you, I guess. So I'm just used to that, and now that effect, I'm gonna be around them way more. I'm more dreading, like, interactions with their school teachers or X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? Just all the weird, funky problems that are gonna come as they get a little bit older, and I'm just like, I'm gonna have the opportunity to go to all these dumb things that I probably will not have a good time at, like T-ball or some thing. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. You guys are having fun, but I kind of don't want to be here. You know what I mean? So I have the opposite problem. Like, I'll have the chance because, again, I have a lot of time on my hands, and I'm not going to be tired. I'm going to be perfectly fine. But I'm
that's the thing though. Like, I'm sure there's some dads listening though, because you got you got to try and put your. I mean, you don't have to try and do it, but put yourself. Maybe there's a single dad listening that has kids, and he's working 2 jobs, and he can't. I mean, even if he wanted to go to all that stupid shit, he just can't. Right? He's gets home from one job, maybe takes the kids from the babysitter over to the grandparents' house, and then he's going to a second job. I feel for those dads that are out there like that on the struggle bus, because that kid's never going to understand that, right? And it's kind of like we didn't understand as kids when our parents worked a lot. And you were talking about kind of your mom working when she needed to make ends meet. And I remember around Christmas time, my dad would he'd go out in his workshop, and he made wooden reindeer that attached to the top of your mailbox, right? And then he made these wooden reindeer that would stand up. And throughout, like, starting before the holidays, he would make those and sell them. And as a kid, I was like, yeah, sweet. My dad's working with tools. I could sit out, on a stool in his shop and watch him work and stuff, but I didn't understand why. But being an adult now, I'm like, holy shit, like, my dad was doing this shit to make sure, that ridiculously expensive gift that my sister and I were asking for, that my parents could make sure, it was under the tree on Christmas Day or whatever. So, like, that's weird shit. That's weird shit I remember, man. That's what's funny about these topics we come up with, dude. In my head, or whoever's head puts it in the spreadsheet, you look at it one way, but that's the beauty of having 3, 5, 6 guys, right? Is I look at the question one way, Jason sees it another way, you see it a way.
Yeah.
But spill your beans.
Let me tell you what let me spill my beans right now. I remember my dad when I was some in kindergarten or between kindergarten and second or third grade, I remember that much. My dad was going to night school. So my dad was from Mexico. He didn't speak very good English when he first got, and he was going to night school during that time and improving himself for my future. And dude, you really were getting in some deep
But you
waters
don't
right
see it.
now,
You
man.
don't
This
see
is
it
so
at
crazy.
that age. You
don't realize it till you're older. Holy bananas!
So there's
dude.
I feel like there's a
Becomes your
piece of
routine.
advice in there, right? Is
Yeah.
you know, how do you
All the good
communicate for
sacrifices.
for the dads out there that live that life, and they're making a sacrifice, or they're doing things behind the scene that to their kids it's just dad's not here. But how do you communicate that to your kid on a level at whatever age they're at that they can understand and appreciate it, so that you don't have to wait till your kids, you know, out of the house 25, 27, 28, 38 years old before they realize, like, holy shit, like that's why my dad was, you know, he wasn't just not there, he was fucking, you know, working himself to death to provide for us, to give us the things we wanted.
Dude,
But that was
this
never
is the
communicated to
greatest
me, right?
conversation.
As a kid, how do you have that conversation with the kid's going to be like, oh, okay, sure, you're just not here.
You don't. You don't.
Yeah.
There's no way to have that. That's not a conversation that you get to have.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Is finite, and there's only you either are able to spend that time with the kids and try to prioritize it and think like, because there's that famous like meme thing that you always see. It's like the only person that's going to remember that you stayed late at work tonight.
I've been
is your
seeing
kid.
that. Yep.
Because nobody cares. The guy that your dad's worked for, they sure as fuck don't remember all those late nights that they stayed. They might remember the money they made, but they spent that too.
I mean,
So
I agree with
really
that.
like,
If you're working a salary job and your company is constantly requiring you to work like a 60-hour work week, like fuck that shit. Fine. The job market is hot, so find a new job. But I'm more talking about the parents that are out there grinding out of necessity, like just surviving, but trying to make sure that everything seems as normal on the outside as possible for their kids, right? So, but yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with the you know, if you're not being compensated for those extra hours, then yeah, why the hell are you doing it, right? Go home, be with your family and your kids, and find a new job. But you do have to talk that piece where you got parents that they're working that much, but it's out of necessity, right? It's not just that their job requires it, it's that their family, their life, their existence requires them to grind that hard.
I feel like everyone's existence in this, like, however you want to term it, world that we're in, like this universe, like the value of and how much things cost, how much something costs now versus 3 to 5 years, like how much we've seen of a hyperinflation and how much things actually cost. Like to me, it kind of blew my mind to the idea. And in that time, I've changed 3 times. Like to me, like I literally feel like I have to work in a profession that I can like exponentially start to make so much more money just to survive in the economy I'm living in, because things cost so much more. Like you can't work the same job and expect like these tiny little raises.
See,
you have to like leverage your own shit.
This might have been before the new crew, including you, Jason, came on, but we did a whole episode where we talked about the job market, we talked about careers, we talked about going out and getting what you're worth, and we talked about, you know, kind of giving your company the middle finger when it's time. And I think that it totally depends on the career you're in, right? But if you're not working with a company that realize this right now, that inflation is fucking out of control. And if they haven't come to you guys and said, hey, we're going to look at salaries and adjust where we can, if they haven't even like told you that kind of thing, you're with the wrong company, in my opinion. Because there are companies out there like that understand that they value their employees, and people think they're few and far between, but they're not. And I know a lot of people get complacent. You like the company you're at, right? Like you get along with your coworkers. Maybe you're working just your 40 hours a week. There's not a lot of overtime demand. And people get in that rut, dude, where you're just comfortable, right? And before you know it, now you've got 15% inflation, whatever. I don't even know what the percent is now, but you have to find a company that values its employees, in my opinion. And like I said, it's not every career field is like that, right? But if you're
I found one. It's me. I'm like, because I'm literally,
a lot of people have turned to it, dude.
It's just sales. Sales. So like, I've just leveraged myself. Like, if I don't like where I'm at because of how much they're giving me compensation wise, just be like, I'm good at what I do. I'm just gonna go sell something else somewhere else and make more money because they pay me more to do it. Like I've definitely gotten attached at certain jobs with people and good, like, but I told the guy when I walked out, I'm like, if I was 25 and I didn't have kids and I could just sit here and let you guys like screw me on how much you pay per like car that I sell, and I could just go party with all like the young people that work here and they'd be my best friends, I'd be great. But like in this economy, like I need exponential, like I need to know that as I get so much better at doing this and moving this many things, that the more things I sell, the more money I make, because I make a flat rate on everything I sell. So like I give that's the only profession you'd give yourself a raise. So I don't really care about I care about how someone's treating me. That's a big thing. Yeah. I like where you're going with that. But like that was a decision I made because of COVID and the way that things, like I never sold anything, but to me, that was
a lot of people.
When I looked at my son when he was born, I had to.
Well, that's what you're reading, man. A lot of people have gone to sales from non-traditional sales jobs. A lot of people have started their own company, right? Because there's been this big,
which is sales.
Right. But there's been a big push to buy local, to take care of local businesses, because everyone saw how shitty that situation got with COVID and shutdowns and all the restrictions on smaller businesses, right? So there's been a big push to support local versus the big machine. But also everybody's trying to hire. So you've got companies that are now being forced to treat their employees better because they need leverage to bring in people. And how the hell can you do that? You have a good reputation for being a company that takes good care of your employees. But that it kind of goes back to that whole thing of if you're salaried and you're a strict salary, you're not getting paid for those extra 20 hours a week. Me personally, I would be looking for a new job. There is no reason with the job market the way it is today that any dad should have to get stuck in that situation. And I'm not saying to go out and quit your job because your wife's bitching that you're not home or your kids are. I'm just saying go look at what is out there. Do some interviews. A lot of companies are doing phone interviews, so you can do it on your friggin' lunch break. But if you're in that rut, man, where you just feel like you are straight working for the man and not being paid for it, go do some interviews. It will be the most eye-opening thing you ever do for yourself. And if you decide to stay with that company, when it comes to year-end reviews or quarterly, whatever the hell your company does, that gives you a little bit of leverage. You at least know your worth, and you can go to your employer and say, well, here's where I think I should be, and I'm not there. And they're either going to say okay or no. And that's where, did we lose you guys? And that's where you got to decide. Oh, we lost Alex. that's where you got to decide.
Wait, what happened?
Oh, I just can't see you. I thought you disappeared, but that's where you got to decide. Do you want to stay with that company or go to a different one? But I think a lot of guys right now are shooting themselves in the foot, just grinding it out with the same employer they've been with for 20 or 30 years, being worked into the ground.
Yeah, I think those times are gone. Yeah, we have the internet, dude.
Well,
have the power.
Yeah, but you also have runaway, and you could do that during a 20 or 30 year. Like our dads worked for 30 years. In the middle of the 30 years was the most robust, booming economy in the 90s that anybody's like seen in the last 100 years.
Right.
The tech boom, like the cost of things and the way that they were paid or compensated if they had a good blue collar job. Like, and even if it was a good blue collar job that you had to work 60 or 80 hours doing, like they made money enough so that it made sense, and they got these houses, and now everything, they bought houses which have now exponentially grown in value, and they made money and they did okay. But like, you can't do that now because you have to plan. First of all, we know they're not going to increase the cost. Like, cost of living would be insane if they were actually going to try to keep up with it if you have runaway inflation. So you just have to like get 3 steps ahead of them. You have to make, like I said, you have to like make an extra 50,000 every friggin' year just to like keep growing, because that's the only way you're going to get ahead of something that is out of control and how much things actually cost. Because if you go to any employer, even the ones that treat you the best, the cost of living increase is not going to actually match the real cost of living, because it's just bad business for them to do that. Well,
I agree. Chasing the cost of living can be tough, but I mean, you kind of have to evaluate it and balance it, right? Do you work for a company that's giving you a decent raise, maybe not keeping up with their current rate of inflation every year, right? But they're giving you a solid raise. They're taking care of you. You are working a 40-hour work week. You're not overstressed. You got time with your family. You're getting vacation approved when you want to take it. So that's the kind of company you got to get to. I agree. Chasing the inflation rate and trying to stay way ahead, even flip-flopping companies is going to be tough. But I guess my point is to just find a place where you feel valued and you can still get that family time. You are not coming home so beaten up, stressed, worn down that it's basically reflecting onto your kids, and you're getting short with your kids, and that's going to happen from time to time anyway, right? Depending on what you're doing. But if it's your norm status quo, that's not where you want to be.
That's a good that hits home for me, I think, in the way that Alex said this was like a great conversation. And I'm sure we're way long.
We're 53 minutes. We got time.
Another stratosphere, but okay, all right. No, so like the stress, and our dads essentially worked so hard and spent so little time with us, and it either like taught us that lesson, or like they sacrificed not spending time with us and not experiencing our kids the way we do, so that and it wasn't intentional, but it gives us the reverse effects where we really value the time with our kids, so we can say like, all right, they treat me well, I do okay, I can live comfortably. I'm not rich, but I can live comfortably, but I'm rich because I can spend time with my kids,
right?
Which our dads, like, that wasn't even something that crossed their mind because they weren't raised that way. And going further back, it's constantly working for your family, but not spending time with your family and valuing it the way that you want to.
Well,
that's a lesson that they taught us.
Yeah. And I mean, you have a lot of companies nowadays that they roll out internal programs. I mean, companies roll out wellness days. They roll out different mental, like my company has done a couple times, they've done it, they've hired kind of a third-party company, and if you wanted to get in on the program, they do. I think they did like a little 15-minute video every day, and it was kind of about like getting your feng shui right, getting your mood right when you're at work, and relaxing, and kind of just getting yourself in the right headspace to work. You've got companies that give you incentives for going to the gym, right? That's going to help with your mood and your energy and just your overall health. And then just mental health has had a huge boom in companies altogether, to where they have all kinds of freaking resources if you need it. Those are the companies you want to look out for, and the ones you want to work for, because they understand, that the people working for them aren't just a paycheck, right? If you run your people into the ground, eventually you're going to have no one working for you.
Yep.
And they're not some weird like unicorn thing either, which I read a lot of, because I see a lot of guys giving the same advice I've kind of given, where like you've got to find a company that treats you like a friggin' human being. And I see a lot of guys giving that same kind of stuff, and guys are like, no, those companies don't exist, or you're full of shit. You'll be so underpaid, it's not even funny. They do exist. They may not be easy to find in your area, but they do exist. So anybody out there that's thinking I can never find that kind of job or career, it is possible. It won't just fall into your lap, but it's out there. Well, sorry, Alex. I cut you
Nick's hiring, taking interviews.
No, I said I think either my phone or my glasses are gonna die. So if I drop off, I apologize in advance.
If you drop off, we'll just end the episode without an outro. Even Alex is gone. I'm just gonna stop recording. But yeah,
with your background, you could drop off into like the abyss, into like a smoky haze. Oh, that works actually. Go on.
That's funny. Now I forgot what topic we were even discussing. Oh, I mean, things we didn't have as a kid. Yeah, it's a different world, man. It totally is. That's I think if you talk about the dads that raised our generation, that a lot of people would say that, right? Like they weren't around much.
The thing we didn't have was our dad. Like that.
Yeah.
Like the sad truth of it. And it made us want to be around our kids, which is a blessing, but they didn't experience being a dad the way that I do,
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a fair statement. I can't get inside any of our dads'
I was gonna say,
like,
you don't know, because no, you go ahead.
I don't know if it's fair or unfair. I think that just was the times, and we benefit from those times, and now we get to enjoy spending time with our kids. You know what I mean?
Right. We have I'll say we have a lot of tools that make our lives a lot more convenient than the lives our parents lived. You can, like, I have a friggin' app that tells me where my kid's bus is at. So if I know we're running freaking late, I can open that app and I'm like, okay, the bus is a mile away. It's 2 miles away. It's half a mile away. You've got a schedule, right? You can pull up your schedule anytime on your phone. When somebody asks if you can do something, or when the school tells you your kid has an event, you can pop it in your phone right then and there. Like, our parents had to expend energy to fucking store that shit in the memory bank, get home, put it in like a physical calendar, maybe. I think the tools have changed for raising kids, which also makes our job feel like it's easier and feel like we have more time. Like you got freaking Grubhub, right? Our parents didn't have that option. I think you had like delivery pizza if you wanted to get it when we were kids, but you didn't have like all sorts of restaurants delivering food. You didn't have all those little fancy pre-packed meals. You had shitty ass TV dinners in the grocery store back when we were kids. If you needed a quick meal or something like that, you still have fast food, I guess. But I think our lives are a lot more convenient.
for sure, but you got to be an organized dad or parent unit to take advantage of all that stuff you're talking about. Just
don't.
like the cream of the crop is still gonna rise. Like there were parents who wrote shit down in a little notebook in their pocket, and they went home and they put it in, and they kept and they actually knew their finances because they did it in a little book and they could see everything
balance the
like
checkbook,
real time. Like, dude, I throw so much shit in my computer and my phone that I never look at again because I'm so overwhelmed by how much space there is for me to just throw all my shit.
All right.
So, like,
well, here's a good one.
It's a double-edged sword.
You got dress up day at school, right? Mm-hmm. If it was dress up day back when I was young enough to have it at school, my mom would be like slaving away making something, right? Now, if that shit sneaks up on me, I'm going to Amazon and ordering something that's hopefully going to be here in 2 to 3 days. That's the kind of like advantage I'm talking about that we have as parents. Something breaks and you need to replace it, you can go on Amazon and order it. Like when we broke something as a kid, shit to fix it wasn't readily available, especially if it was like an electronic thing, right? Those are the kind of
Radio Shack
uneven. Well, we don't have Radio Shack's all out of business.
No, we had it.
Oh yeah. The
time you're talking about, like
your dad had to have the skills to put that shit back together, though. Now you can just order, a fucking toy off Amazon to replace whatever it was for $5.
Yeah, so we're less skilled, but they had more skill with less.
Did we lose Alex? I think we lost Alex. Yeah, no, I agree.
Alex frozen in the smoke.
It was. I was reading. I think it's a post that's been going around, and they basically say like, do you remember the old car manuals that basically told you like you could buy it for a specific car and it told you how to do like any kind of maintenance you could want on a car? Well, yeah. So yeah, the Chiltons. Yeah, so right. Those used to tell you like how to hone cylinder heads and like how to replace valves and stuff. And now, like, they don't tell you any of that because they don't trust people to know what the hell they're doing by reading the book.
It'd be an engine. Yeah. There's so many computer parts in a car that, like, trying to put that in a book like that,
but even basic stuff, they don't even show you anymore. It's kind of funny.
No. No, they just give you 3 free years of maintenance for your 3-year lease, and then you just give the car back. You never have to change a tire or check any oil.
Yeah,
like a
unless you have unless you buy it and you're paying on a 5-year loan, then you gotta ride that bitch till the wheels fall off.
Nah, I'm biased because of what I do. So I have a car for an average of like 8 months at a time. But when I was young and I had my Corolla for 10 years for sure. But like I'm just constantly around cars. So I just play with the numbers to get out of this amount of, negative equity. Just like be like, I'm $5,000 in negative equity. That just means I got to put $5,000 down on this car and I'm back to even. And then I just get another car. So it's worth it to me to do it that way. But that's because I'm just like spoiled with that. But yeah, if you have something that's old and you have to fix it and you don't know what you're doing, you're screwed.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
Or at least you're going to pay out the ass to do it. So it's not worth it. If you have to pay out the ass to fix an old car, then you should have just, paid out the ass to have a new car.
Yeah, donate it to the Kidney Foundation or something.
If you can fix your own stuff, then it's worth it to have old stuff. But if you can't, you're basically like you're at the whim of whatever that is to break, because everything's going to break. And if you're not the kind of person who wants to learn how to fix it, you're screwed when it breaks and you got to pay somebody else. So
for sure,
it comes down.
Sweet. Well, we lost Alex. I think this is a pretty good episode. That kind of shows you the power of what we do with Time to Dad Guys. Is I wrote that topic in a potential list for tonight, and we totally took it and spun it, I think, 3 different ways. And that's what's kind of cool about this group and how we interact and the things we talk about. So we only covered 2 topics tonight, I think. And it was a long one, but thank you guys for hanging out with us. We appreciate you sticking around. Check out the Facebook group. Leave us some comments. Let us know what you guys want to hear us talk about. We're trying to bring some kind of specialists, end quote, on the episodes coming up that can really hone in on some specific topics and provide some well-educated ideas and beliefs and systems around things. And then we're also planning to just have on some regular good old dads to join us as guests on the show. So we got a lot of stuff coming up in the works for the year 2024. But thank you guys for hanging out. Check out the Facebook group and like and subscribe, and we will catch you next week.
Later.
See ya.